And welcome back to the Daily Dribble Podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit, here back with part two of a two-part series going through and giving compliments to every team within the league. Now, as I dubbed last week, 'tis the season of giving as we approach Christmas. Last week, I went through and gave compliments to all 15 Eastern Conference teams. This week, I'm tackling the Western Conference. Very, very excited to get into that momentarily. It's certainly... I found this considerably more difficult, I think, than the East. But looking forward to sharing my thoughts momentarily. Before we do so, though, a big shout out to both Stadium Scene and The Cover, both those networks continuing to showcase my work here at the Daily Dribble, as well as a whole host of other content creators in and around Australia, New Zealand, the US, and Canada. Very, very appreciative for all their continued hard work and support of me. It really does mean a lot. Likewise to all of you guys tuning in and week out, whether it's watching on YouTube, tuning in on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or just staying up to date with all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok, getting all your latest news from the NBA and the NBL. It does mean the world to me, and I appreciate you guys sharing all your thoughts on what I got right and what I got wrong with the Eastern Conference last week. As I said, dubbed this little segment, "'Tis the season of giving." If you haven't already checked it out, part one dropped last week, going through and giving compliments to all 15 Eastern Conference teams. I'm really trying to enjoy Christmas this year. Years gone by, I don't know, I've just found it a stressful little period. I've often been working across the kind of the festive season. It's not the case this year. Really going to try and enjoy it. As I'm sure many of you are, it's a special time of year, spending it with friends and family, and for many, it's the most magical time of the year, as it's often dubbed. So in the spirit of giving, as I said last week, I want to give out compliments this week. And regardless of, a lot of teams have started their seasons well, a lot of teams not so well. But I think every single franchise has at least one thing they can feel hopeful or optimistic about. So today I want to share that one thing. As I said, let me know what I got right, what I got wrong. We've got 15 teams to rattle through here. Without further ado, let's kick off with the Dallas Mavericks. Now, my compliment for them is the fact that they've got more depth than expected. I think the Mavs are retooled really well in the offseason. The acquisitions of Klay Thompson certainly, I wouldn't say it's paying dividends just yet in the starting lineup, but it was a big signing nevertheless. That just complements the top-end talent that they've got there in Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, but they've also managed to kind of build enough depth in that second unit. You look at players like Quentin Grimes, Maxi Kleber, Najee Marshall, Spencer Dinwiddie, players like that coming off the bench. I think they're in a really good position to kind of deal with injuries and missed games and things of the kind at the moment. Their depth is certainly better than I had expected. They've had a bit of a slower start to the season, yet I feel like they're starting to click into gear. Luka's missed a little bit of time. Once he returns, I just feel like they're a team that's going to start putting the correct, formula together. It feels as if there's been a bit of an ironing out period, as there has with many franchises within the league. But I feel like they're starting to click, and should they click to the potential I think they could, as I say, going into the season, I feel like they're a championship caliber team. They haven't looked like it thus far, but I think with the depth, they're going to go deep this year in the playoffs. So watch out for the Mavs. To the Denver Nuggets, my compliment for them is the fact that you still have the league's best player at your disposal. Now, until someone else is crowned otherwise, he is the guy. 3-time MVP of the league, and he's continuing to play, again, at MVP level. What he's doing at the moment with Aaron Gordon injured, with MPJ and Jamal Murray being pretty inconsistent, you would say. The bench is shitty as well at best. He's had to do a mountain of work. 30 points, 14 rebounds, 11.5 assists, and shooting an absolutely ridiculous league-leading 56% from three. This guy's a cheat code. And, what an asset for the Nuggets to have. I feel like if you've got Jokic, you've got a chance. And, again, another team that started a little bit slower. They really need better performances out of MPJ, Jamal Murray. They need Gordon back. They need a better bench. Like, when their bench comes onto the fold, they're getting blown out of the water. They need someone to come with Jokic because, as I said, 30 points, 14 rebounds, 11 and a half assists. They are better than his MVP season stats. So incredible stuff there. Could well be marching towards a potentially fourth MVP. We'll assess that as the season goes on. But yeah, putting up phenomenal numbers and is undoubtedly still the league's best player. To the Golden State Warriors, compliment for them is the fact that you're going to have fresh legs. Now, Steve Kerr is rolling out a very deep lineup at the moment. Even despite DeAnthony Melton going down with a season-ending ACL injury, the Warriors are rolling with a 12-man rotation. I think they've got a really nice balance at the moment of both youth and experience. And despite everyone playing less minutes at the moment, some of the heavy hitters in the team, Draymond, Steph, Wiggins, they're racking up wins. It's a really nice position to be in. If they can, this reduction in minutes is certainly going to be advantageous come the postseason. As long as they can keep getting wins, getting runs on the board, I don't think there'll be any issue with playing these guys reduced minutes. I think it bodes really well for them. As I said, heading into the postseason, Draymond and Steph in particular, they're not getting any younger. So the fresher you can keep them, I think the better that will bode for them later in the year. To the Houston Rockets, my compliment for them is you guys have the second best defense in the Western Conference. Now, with some of the young run-and-gun type players that they have, this kind of surprised me. At the moment, in defensive kind of rating in the Western Conference, they sit only behind the Thunder, who are giving up 103.6 points per game. The Rockets sit at 105.1 points per game given up. Now, they currently sit third in the West. They're building a really, really, really good season. I thought they would be a super solid team. I didn't envision they'd be that high at the moment. But if they can keep up this defensive intensity, I think they're poised to go deep in the postseason. They've got a nice mix of size in Jabari Smith and Alperen Sengun. While sneaky guards in Van Vliet and Green, they provide opportunity for steals. I don't see any reason as to why this defensive prowess that they've shown so far can't continue. We know they're going to get points. Jalen Green, Sengun, Fred Van Vliet, Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith, that starting five they've got, they're going to put up points. But if they can keep things ironed out on the defensive end, they should be a team pushing for home court advantage based on what we've seen so far, which would be a fantastic result for them. The LA Clippers, my compliment is the fact that you're still waiting on your best player to come back. Now, I think the Clippers have done a fantastic job of keeping things afloat whilst Kawhi Leonard's been out. Reports suggesting that he's only a few weeks away now. Norman Powell, James Harden, Ivica Zubac there have all done really well to put them in a pretty respectable position at the moment. They'll certainly be hoping once Kawhi comes back, they can put the foot down. He's certainly one of the best two-way players within the league still. I don't think they're in that top echelon of contending teams. But if Kawhi comes back and looks dominant, they're probably in that second to third tier, which would make them quite a threat. You wouldn't want to rule them out heading into the postseason there. So I think that bodes really well if you're a Clippers fan. You've got a new stadium. The boys are rolling. Some fantastic performances out of those big three players that I mentioned, Powell, Harden, Zubac. And you're still waiting on your best player to come back. Not a bad position to be in. Heading to their crosstown rivals, the LA Lakers, the purple and gold, my boys, my compliment is that Dalton Connect looks like he has star potential. Now, I was looking at going the AD route, LeBron route. It seemed too obvious. So I wanted to shine a little bit of a light on the 17th pick in this year's draft, Connect, averaging only 11.5 points, 3 rebounds, and assist. He's going at 45% from three. But he's showing the ability to be a serious cooker when he wants. Versus Utah the other week in the starting lineup, he dropped 37 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and went 9 of 12 from three. Followed it up with a 27-point performance. I feel like the first week or two took a little bit of finding his feet. and that's certainly to be expected, a rookie there. The bright lights of LA shining upon him, but he's starting to build a really nice season. And as I said, he certainly looks the business. He doesn't look overawed by the moment. He's certainly not afraid to let it fly. And for the Lakers, this is a huge, huge tick in the win column. Getting a rookie that's going to actually complement the team from the word go. They certainly need his shooting, and he's delivering big time at the moment. So I think you've got a budding young star at your hand if you're a Lakers fan, which I am. To the Memphis Grizzlies, which is surprising. A compliment to you is you have the best offense in the West. Now, the Grizz are averaging 120.4 points per game, only behind the Cavs in the league at the moment, who are averaging 124.4 points. But they seem to just be doing it by committee at the moment. You know, you've got some big name players. Giles just come back, Desmond Bane, but they're getting production from about 9 deep at the moment. And they're doing a really good job. Like they play a fast brand of basketball, nothing too crazy though. But they've done a really good job of getting to the line and making the open shots that are presented to them. That being said, if you're a long-time listener of the show, you'll know that the Grizzlies aren't normally a team that I buy into. And I wouldn't say I'm fully believing in them just yet, but they are playing very, very well. And if they keep delivering like this on the offensive side of things, they're certainly going to continue to make their way up the standings. Again, I'll no doubt touch on this in coming weeks. Don't think I have full faith in them at the moment, but they will. They'll turn some heads should everyone be fit and healthy come the back end of the season. To the Minnesota Timberwolves, my compliment is, despite a slow start to the season, you're only a couple of games off the pace. Now, they sit currently on the season at 8-9. Underwhelming, you would say, given the way the season went last year, the big acquisition there of Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, despite losing Cat. They sit 11th at the moment. Now, as things currently stand, that's only 5 games back of OKC in first. Now, I personally think they've got quite a little bit of work to do to reaffirm themselves as a title-level team, which many people thought they would be heading into this season. Yet, if they can figure it out, they are well within striking distance of that home court territory. And I think going into the season, that's certainly what they would have been eyeing at a minimum. So, as I said, despite the start, 8-9 on the season, no reason to ring the alarm bells just yet. Certainly, as I said, been an underwhelming start, but you're still only a couple of games off the pace. No reason to panic just yet. And should things click like we've seen, some really fantastic performances from Julius Randle. He's also had some ordinary ones. Likewise, I think DiVincenzo's been super quiet this year. Done nothing to benefit my fantasy team. He's about to get he did get the flick the other day. I did drop him the other day. But if they can get things ironed out, there's still plenty of time to charge up the standings. So that's a positive there for Minnesota. For the Pelicans, I couldn't look past the fact that a positive is there's plenty of reinforcements coming back. Now, I don't think any team within the league has been hit harder with injuries, in particular to their top-end talent. Really started from the word go with DeJounte Murray going down, Zion, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy. They've all missed extensive time. And, you know, it's got them hanging down the foot of the Western Conference standings at the moment. Going into the season, I was really high on this team. And, you know, when they're fit and healthy, I think they've got the makings of a top 2 or 3 kind of seed within the West. I personally hope we get to see that sooner rather than later. They've got a lot of ground to make up. But if this team can fire with the talent that they have and get these pieces back on court as soon as possible, they could hopefully make up some ground and push towards a play-in spot, hopefully. But they've got a lot of work to do on their hands. They've dug themselves quite a hole to this point in time. But as I said, with that talent they have at their disposal, nothing's out of the question just yet. There's still time to claw back. For OKC, My positive comment is that Chet's injury happened early. Now, OKC currently lead the Western Conference, sitting first in a really comfortable position. Chet Holmgren, I think he's got probably another 4 or 5 weeks at least on the sidelines there with that fractured hip. But I think a compliment for them is that they've got enough pieces, enough players, enough talent to keep things rolling whilst he's out. As I said, they still currently sit first within the West, a great position to find themselves. SGA is putting up MVP-like level numbers once again. Isaiah Hartenstein back now in the fold as well. There's no reason for alarm bells. And I think if you're going to get injured, this is as good a time as any if you're Chet Holmgren. So it's only a small compliment, but yeah, it's a positive there. For the Phoenix Suns, my compliment is you arguably have the best starting 5 in the league. Now, with Kevin Durant just coming back off that injury layoff, that starting 5 consisting of KD, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic, and the newly acquired Tyus Jones, that is very, very formidable. I think in terms of star power, in terms of offensive firepower, that is just about as good as it gets in the league for a starting unit. I still have concerns about their depth a little bit, but if that unit can stay fit and healthy, those 5 in particular, they're dangerous. You don't want to sleep on them. They put the Lakers to the sword the other day in a really commanding performance. They took over in the second half, and it just kind of illustrated how damaging they can be. So don't sleep on them. That starting 5, that's going to be a killer. Down to the Portland Trailblazers. My compliment is that your roster is actually competitive and kind of has potential. Granted, in the actual standings, it's not looking great for the Blazers. Looks can be deceiving sometimes. With where things sit at the moment for the Blazers, they're currently down the lower end of the Western Conference, sitting 13th with a 7-11 record. Yet they're only 3 games back of a playing spot. And with what we've seen so far, some of the Donovan Clingan in particular, Anthony Simons, I think, has been slow. But some of the young players they have at their disposal, I don't want to say it's going to be they're not a playing level team just yet, but they're a team that's going to cause upsets. They're going to play competitive, high intensity basketball, and they're building trade value in some of these pieces. So I've actually quite enjoyed watching the Blazers so far. They're kind of a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know what you're going to get on any given night. But that's half the fun, and it's good to see them playing competitive basketball. Even, 7-11, that's not that far away from 500, to be fair. So if they can keep things rolling, I quite like where this roster's headed. Down to the Sacramento Kings, my compliment is that De'Aaron Fox is a killer. He's playing all-star level basketball at the moment, averaging 25 points, 5 rebounds, nearly 6 assists, and 1.7 steals per game. Some of the performances he's put up thus far, against the Kings, I don't know, you'd probably say an underwhelming start to the season, given the acquisition of DeMar DeRozan. They currently sit 12th at 8-10 on the season, but Fox has been outstanding. And, if the Kings had got a few more wins on the board, he'd probably be up there in MVP talk, I would say. Unfortunately, that's not the case at the moment. But if he keeps on the way he is, you would envision All-Star, you would envision potential All-NBA if it was to be picked now. A fantastic season from him. And I tell you what, the Kings certainly need this level of production out of him. Hopefully some wins can go with it. But De'Aaron Fox, next level this season. To the Spurs. Now, what a fun team they are. They sit in a playing position at the moment, 10-8 on the season, winning their last 4 games. My compliment is the additions have helped. The off-season additions, pardon me, namely Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, bringing a little bit of competency, a little bit of experience. It's really helping nurture those young players, in particular Victor Wembanyama. They are looking like a really formidable basketball team. only sit 3.5 games back of first, which is just absolutely mental. 7-3 in their last 10, building really nicely. Wemby's just missed a couple of games, returned the other day in their win over the Jazz. I tell you what, like they're a team to be feared. They're certainly not going to be a pushover, given where things sit at the moment. As I said, they sit 10th. They've got some decent teams following them, like the Timberwolves, the Kings. The Pelicans are, they're 6 games back. I think there's probably maybe a little bridge too far unless something drastically changes. I don't know. Could they hold on? How good are this team? Are they better than the Wolves? Are they better than the Kings? I don't know, but I'm loving seeing them play some really high-intensity basketball, and being above 500 is fair play to them. So, really enjoying watching the Spurs. And finally, to the Utah Jazz, my compliment is the fact that John Collins is an actual NBA player once again. Now, it feels as if he's almost had a few seasons out in the wilderness, has really dropped off the face of the planet, it feels as if. This year, he's had a resurgent season thus far, averaging 18 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. Super, super solid stuff. He's certainly re-establishing himself as a trade asset, if that's the route they want to go. But if they look to keep him, he's actually playing some valuable minutes, valuable production. The Jazz, again, really, they're kind of just looking to the Cooper flag, a sweepstakes. But they're playing some decent ball. They're 4-13 on the season, sitting 14th. As I said, it's really just about boosting the trade value of some of these players, if that's the route they want to go. But yeah, really good to see John Collins playing actual legitimate NBA basketball once again. Guys, there you have it. We've ripped through very quickly all 15 Western Conference teams, going through and giving them each a compliment. Because as I said before, 'tis the season of giving. With Christmas now under a month away, I thought it was an opportune time to kind of give each franchise a compliment. So would love to hear your thoughts, what I got right here, what I got wrong. Be sure to let me know on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok, as well as subscribing and liking wherever you're listening to the show, whether it's watching on YouTube or tuning in on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I certainly appreciate you guys being here with me. I want to leave it at that, though. Really appreciate you tuning in week and week out. Have a fantastic week. Another big week of NBA and NBL action coming up. And I can't wait to speak to you all again next week. Till then, remember, be good or be good at it. See you guys.